Hey there, cats, kittens, corduroys, and classy folks. It's Dwight, back with you again for your weekly dive into mental health history. That's right, it's Thursday. This story is about the March of Dimes. This is a weekly feature on the Broken Brain, available to you patrons. Everybody else just gets a few minutes of 3 of these a month and a full one once a month. So if you want to learn more about that, go to patreon.com/brokenbrain and you can find out how to get all thems. Just a quick heads up, I will be plugging our 5-hour live stream event at the end of the podcast. Maybe you're sick of hearing about it, but don't worry, in a couple of weeks you won't have to hear about it again for a year. So we'll get more into that later. But first, the March of Dimes. Why? Well, it's about health and children and stuff like that, and so I think it's appropriate to dive into it. Also, you don't know this because it's pre the recording, unless you're a previous guest and listening. Thank you for listening, if you are. Anyway, I try to prep people for the fact that, as any listeners know, at the end of the episode, before I have the guest share whatever they would like to share about where to follow their work or get involved, many of them are part of a nonprofit themselves or have started one anyway, but I always ask them to share either a charity, a nonprofit, or another way of giving back to the community that they can suggest to listeners. Anyway, before I hit record, when I'm prepping them, I have this little tendency for some reason to say, hey, it doesn't have to be related to what we're talking about. It certainly can, but it can be anything. It can be the March of Dimes, which I found that under a certain age, it seems like people don't recognize the reference. And so it led me, as a getting on in years here person, I find more and more of the references that I think are applicable. People don't always get them. For example, I stopped saying, I'll see you next week, same bat time, same bat channel, to my clients. Number one, it was probably annoying. But number two, the other reason for that is that many of them didn't know what I was talking about. So anyway, what is the March of Dimes and is it still around? Well, we go back to 1938. And in some ways, even more so, to 1928. 1938 is when the March of Dimes was officially started. 1928 was when the genesis of it truly happened. First of all, let me clue you in. If you're not familiar with the March of Dimes, it is a health-related fundraiser for childhood illness. Particularly was started for issues of polio and any kind of paralytic kind of condition. And nowadays, they focus on maternal and infant health in all, it looks like all kinds of different ways. And they still, campaign, fundraise, provide education, advocacy, and programs to help moms and kids to be strong and healthy. This is, by the way, a charity that has a 30 out of 30 score with Charity Navigator. So it seems like a pretty good one. And as you guys know, I love charities, love nonprofits. I plug as many as I can. So let me tell you a little bit about how this started. It's actually really interesting. As you may be aware, President Franklin Roosevelt was struck with polio. Now, what I didn't know is he was actually struck not in childhood, but at age 39, which paralyzed him from the waist down. He became dedicated to rehabilitation, not only working on rehabilitation of his own condition, but also rehabilitation for those that had been struck with that as well. So when that hit, that was around 1921. Subsequent to that, he created a rehabilitation center called the Georgia Warm Springs Foundation. And around 1934, he began using his birthday as an occasion to reach out to Americans and encourage them to fundraise. One of the ways this was done was through birthday balls, where people would throw parties. And there was a slogan that was kicked around that was dance so others can walk. And these parties were used as a way to raise donations and funds. And this became actually an organization that he formed with his former law partner, Basil O'Connor. Now, when he became governor of New York, he transferred leadership completely of the Rehabilitation Center to O'Connor, And that became a nonprofit foundation that was started out being called the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis. Okay, and that's where we get to 1928 is where that first started. So there would be charitable gifts and things that were given at these balls, where there would be dancing and there would be a real focus on this and on raising this particularly for children, hence the name infantile paralysis, right? Started out being used for patient care at the Warm Springs Rehabilitation Facility and also for financing research and looking at causes and the prevention of this. There's several articles that you can find that are very, very interesting about this that go even deeper than me, guys. But one of those is at the National Library of Medicine, which is at ncbi.nim.nih.gov. If you can Google "So That Others May Walk, The March of Dimes" by Helfand, Lazarus, and Thierman. So you could even just "So That Others May Walk, The March of Dimes, National Library of Medicine." A couple different ways you can find it. So that's one really great article that goes into this process of what happened. Well, why did I say 1938? I didn't just forget to say 1928. 10 years after the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis was formed, a man named Eddie Cantor got involved. Now, he was a writer, singer, actor, comedian, dancer, all of those, a more than triple threat. He was on television, and he became known for telling exaggerated and humorous stories about his family. So that was a breaking ground back in those days. Not really a new thing to us now, of course, but that was something that became very, very big. He was also known for using exaggerated facial expressions, rolling his eyes in particular. Well, as promised, let me give you just a little quick update on August the 29th. That's a Thursday. And in the middle of that day, or the midday, as the kids are calling it these days, I'm going to do a 5-hour live stream broadcast about opioid overdose awareness. It's the third year running. I'm doing that. Currently coordinating and talking to lots of former guests of the show. Hope to have some people joining me. And you can be one of those people. If you would like to join the broadcast or even just watch it, best place to find these links is go to dwighthurst.com/live of the day of the event. It will give you the social media places where you can watch or listen as you're going through your day. But there's also a link to join. It's like a live call-in show where you can appear in the live feed. If you don't think you have anything to say, hey, you know what? Join anyway. Just help me break up the time, guys. But you really do. The focus and the theme this year is around relapse prevention and ways to maintain sobriety, which includes healthy living and just any thoughts that you have. And even if you just want to say you care, glad to have you on. And even if you're just someone I can bounce some information off of and say, what do you think about that? We'll have a great time. So anyone who can join, please do so. And please forward the link, dwighthurst.com/live, which once again has all the information, different time zones, and information there that you can use to know when it's happening. Please share that with other people if you would be so kind. All right. Thanks very much. Enjoy your Thursday and the rest of your week. We'll be back again with a mental health tip on Monday and a full episode next Tuesday.